Hello and a warm welcome to HW News Network, your one stop show, truth be told, for some engaging and thought provoking conversations. A satirical political group calling itself the Cockroach Jantaa Party has sprung up online after Chief Justice Suryakant reportedly compared unemployed youth to the cockroaches. Now, the group says that it has drawn more than 40,000 members within 2 days of launching. The party was founded by former Aam Aadmi Party social media worker Abhijit Dipke, and he has already admitted Trinamool Congress MPs Mahua Moitra and Kirti Azad as members through social media exchanges. Uh, this what's unprecedented about this particular movement online is that they have come out with a 5 point manifesto. Now, if I try and show you the poster, now look at this: a 5 point agenda. No post-retirement rewards for judges. This is what they say. They protect every legit vote, and they are also saying that if any legit vote is deleted, then the chief election commissioner will be arrested and a case of UAPA will be slapped. Third point is 50% reservation for women, and 50% of the cabinet berths will also go for women. Then independent media, not Godi media. They are saying that all the channels which belong to Ambani and Adani, their licenses will be cancelled, and there will be investigation into the accounts of the Godi media anchors. Then the next point is that 20 years bar on political defection. If the members defect, then 20 years they will not be allowed to join this party. Now, many people look at this Cockroach Jantaa satirical meme on the social media as a social media phenomena. But the kind of traction it is getting, people are asking questions that is this an expression of legitimate anger, especially after Chief Justice of India, Justice Suryakant, used words like cockroaches and parasites. So we'll try and talk about this. Joining me this evening is a journalist, activist, and also social media influencer. Saurav Das joins us. He's a columnist as well with the Frontline magazine. Thank you so much, Saurav, for joining. I would like to begin with you about the comment made by Chief Justice Suryakant. Now, he said in his clarification that media misquoted him. I went back to look at the clip where he very seamlessly uses words like cockroaches and parasites. He says that the youngsters are like parasites, and he goes on to say it effortlessly. So how is he saying that he was misquoted by a section of the media?
Unfortunately, Neelu, people holding public offices these days, actually, I think they really believe that people are fools, and they would not be able to understand what is going on behind the scenes or connect the dots when it comes to issues like this. And therefore, you're right. When one goes back and looks at that clip, it's quite clear that whatever be the context, the use of such words itself is condemnable. And the Chief Justice of India, who's supposed to be this kind of guardian of people's rights, of the downtrodden, and is the last authority when it comes to people's rights, is using this kind of language, be it against anyone, Nilu, whatever be the context. Context is not important here.
When the story broke that day, I think you were the first one to raise this issue that Rahul Gandhi should move an impeachment motion against Chief Justice of India. I found no other person on the social media talking about this. Why hasn't the opposition taken up this?
The issue is, unfortunately, with our opposition, they are very concerned when it comes to, our courts and what is happening with our judicial system. But nobody is willing to talk about it or take a strong stand against it, because all their cases are now before the same set of judges and courts, right? And that is the larger issue. When I gave that statement about impeachment and that the leader of opposition should look at it, it's because certain things in life are non-negotiable. They are not on the cards to negotiate with. One of them being tolerating such statements from the highest judicial office of this country. For instance, when the pollution protests took place in Delhi, and I spoke to you around that time, I
Yes.
told you this, that clean air cannot be negotiated with, and therefore it's a minimum duty of our opposition leaders, of people, to actually come up and talk about the issue And keeping that in mind, I said, that uh, this kind of a statement from the CJI cannot be tolerated with, and he should be removed from the office for the from so that he cannot hold the rest of his tenure. And that's the issue. I mean, nobody wants to take a strong stand because it's too radical, and sub log, everybody wants to be very cozy
Immediate
and
reaction is
gentle.
no, the immediate reaction amongst the journalistic fraternity is थोड़ा बचकर चलो. He's a CJI Chief Justice of India है, contempt हो जाएगा. This is the immediate reaction which comes from the journalistic quarters. Not all journalists are ready to pick up this issue.
Exactly. And, the fear of contempt was very high before, say, 2016, 2017. Journalists used to talk about it in hush hush tones. But what has happened is, the video conferencing facilities have started. Everything is online. People are, getting news from Live Law, Bar and Bench, other judicial law reporters minute by minute. So there's a lot of transparency, much more transparency in the process, in the judicial proceedings, because of which, judges have been unable to handle this kind of sunshine in their courts. And therefore, people are, not willing to be that hesitant as they were previously.
No,
And
but
that's why you see.
are you ready to give benefit of doubt to Justice Suryakant that okay, he must have made a comment without realizing the import of it and what could be the implication he wouldn't have realized, and he just made a comment like what he said. Oh, it was a frivolous case, and I was trying to, and I was misquoted.
See,
And then
Neelu,
he said Saurav about that he was talking about the fake degrees of
yeah.
people who come to the bar.
See, unfortunately, fake degrees is a problem. There are a lot of, black coat people who do not have degrees and are scamming their clients and being a burden on the system. That's true. But, when you are a judge and holding such a high position, your judicial temperament should talk about you. And you can't have such temperament, because this is not the very only time that, Chief Justice Suryakant has made such statements. 15th May, he gave this statement about cockroaches. 11th May, he spoke about environmentalists, how they have never welcomed development projects. He said, हमें एक बार भी दिखा दो अगर कोई environmentalists have welcomed projects, development projects. So in a way, he says कि environmentalists are against development. 29 January, he gave a statement about trade unions, saying that these trade unions are responsible for country not progressing in terms of industries. So such are his statements. 2nd December, he said something about Rohingyas, saying that India, do you think we should have the obligation to welcome intruders into our country with flowers? He gave such a statement in a very sensitive case where there was a legal challenge to certain people being randomly picked up without process of law from Delhi and pushed into some other country in Bangladesh. Instead of hearing that case sensitively and deciding the question of law, he gave such a statement. When there was a lot of furor, similarly to what has happened on 12th December, a few days after that comment, he said that I won't be browbeaten, and there's a concerted attempt against me and on social media, and people are critiquing because of such a concerted campaign. Then 3rd March last year, Nilu, he said that certain brainless people are writing on free speech. We know how to handle them also. These were his words. This was in the beer biceps matter. So it's not just a objectionable statement, but is also a veiled threat against people writing on free speech who he thinks are brainless. And similarly, in the Ashoka officer Mahmoodabad's case, in May 2025, he said the very same thing, that people who are protesting his arrest, we know how to handle them also. So it's not the first time that he has done this, and he has done it several
By
times in
and
the
large, what is the impression which Chief Justice is deliberately or inadvertently trying to tell the people that sitting at the highest seat of the Chief Justice of India, he doesn't like people who are raising questions. He doesn't like people who are holding the power to account. Is that the message which is going?
Clearly, it reflects a mentality of that sorts because the judges in our country, unfortunately for our system and for our people, they already have a God syndrome. They think they are above questioning, and so far, there has been really no system put in place where you hold judges accountable. I mean, Nilu, what is worse than not having an FIR where literally crores of rupees was found to be burning in a judge's home? There's not an FIR till date. So our accountability mechanism when it comes to judges is already very, very poor, and therefore that has made their demeanor as though they are above questioning, almost like gods who can't be questioned, and that their word is the final word on things. So it
Right.
does reflect that mentality. It's a very patriarchal, sorry, it's a very paternalistic mentality. It reflects rather very poorly on the Chief Justice's own thinking, right? And for a for a person to reach CGI ship with such a judicial temperament, it speaks volumes about our system today.
But why do you think Justice Suryakant was forced to issue a clarification? He might as well have continued without giving a clarification. But was it only because of the fury of the social media, the kind of outrage which played out? It was because of that that he was forced to issue a clarification, or the reason was something else?
Absolutely. I mean, it created a huge uproar throughout the country, and the youth of this country, which constitutes about 65% of our population, felt attacked. And a lot of those people are very, internet savvy, social media savvy, and everybody is on socials these days. So comments like these, especially from the Chief Justice of India, from a judge, spreads like wildfire. And I think his comments were spread throughout. It was across not just Twitter, but also on Instagram, on Facebook, and a lot of people were commenting and condemning it. And number two, it's also because people on the right wing, who are supporters of this government, who are conservative when it comes to the judiciary, even they came out in substantial numbers. I was pretty impressed, and took a right stand, saying that we may have our differences with how your style or the manner in which you function, but none of us are cockroaches, and no human being can be called so. Because remember, Nilu, it's almost like your dog whistling in a certain way, because in the Nazi Germany, Jews were called cockroaches. Radio Rwanda used to go against a particular community, saying that they are parasites. So this has happened in the history. For the CGI to use these kind of words does not behove him at all, and that's why he had to, faced with such brutal condemnation and also trolling to certain extent, he had to come out and give that
Right, but
clarification.
you think this trolling will halt at where it is, or it's going to continue like what we are seeing with the formation of a cockroach Jantaa party? Now this thing is continuing. It is growing into a big movement, an online movement. What does one say? Where is this going to end? Where does it stop? Do you think that it's only when the Chief Justice of India apologizes that these things will stop now?
Yeah, and unfortunately, the clarification had no amount of regret conveyed, or it and
Regret, and also no mention of the word cockroach. Even
no.
in his clarification, he mentioned only the word parasite. There was no mention of the word cockroach.
Exactly, because like you rightly mentioned, a lot of people it started almost like a movement saying, I am also a cockroach. So I think that's why he did not use it. And I was pleasantly surprised, not rather pleasantly surprised, but I was surprised to see that there's an entire campaign now to, by, I don't know who, I think supporters of the Chief Justice or something. They are reaching out to journalists, ex-journalists, and certain, people on Twitter, saying, आप ट्वीट कर दीजिए 4,000 रुपए से 8,000 रुपए per tweet का हम आपको पैसा देंगे. And you have seen since yesterday evening a concerted campaign where random accounts are just coming up and giving a long statement
Defending
saying
the
that
CGI. And they are
uh,
defending the CGI.
defending
Oh
the
my.
CJI and saying that the entire controversy should be put to rest. He is a great person. He has done a lot of good for the country. He has given long years to service, etc. So concerted campaign has happened on the other side, right? But yes, I mean, there's no dearth of issues in this
But
country.
that's a big news point. I mean, these are trollers, or rather the supporters of the CGI, who are paid to do this job, and they've got money to do this
Exactly. 4,000 to 8,000 rupees is what I'm told.
per tweet. That
7,000
you are saying per
per tweet.
tweet, 4,000 to 8,000 rupees they are being paid to defend CGI and to justify what he said is right.
Absolutely. And also, the point is, the tweets are being made, almost brainlessly, because, you can really make out who is
Yeah.
concerned about the judiciary, is following such events, and who is just being paid to make certain statements. There's a long tweet, and then there is a picture of the Chief Justice attached to it, and then people are tweeting it. So, but unfortunately, Neelu, like you said, these things don't make any sense in the long run, because the youth has taken an offense. And you mentioned the Cockroach Jantaa Party. I think, something good will come out of it. The person who started it, Abhijit Dipke, um, uh, I think he has also given an interview in a couple of other places, and he has said that, he started it with no intention. He just started it
Yes.
as a satirical thing. But then there are so many people who have already joined, more than 45,000, and its popularity has been increasing on social media as well. So I'm sure that some youth centric issues and issues will be raised, and something will be done by his party. And
Do you think
there's
that this
no
can?
dearth of issues in this country, so I'm sure people will forget this soon enough, and then move on to the
No,
next issue.
absolutely. But when you talk about a youth movement, people get reminded of the Gen Z movement, which one saw in Nepal, in Sri Lanka, and automatically one starts fearing as to what would the Gen Z of India do. Now, can this become a Gen Z movement? I mean, of course, CGI has given an opportunity, and this has transformed into is transforming, or rather is in the process of getting transformed into a youth movement. Do you think that this can really change the things?
I think there's definitely a lot of anger against the system, and the rising popularity of the Cockroach Janta Party testifies to that. The idea, or rather the task, would be to keep the movement sustained, right? The Once the outrage fades, what happens then? So I'm sure that Mr. Deepke of the party will be able to sustain this. But there is definitely a chance that this could get big, and this could really be a platform for the Gen Z, because the eligibility criteria to join this party is that you have to be chronically lazy. You have to be able to professionally rant on
Also
social media.
unemployed. You need to be
Also
unemployed,
unemployed.
hooked online for 11 hours.
Exactly. And all of this, attracts the Gen Z, and this could really become a platform that could, where Gen Z could think that they have a voice, in with a pinch of, satire in it. I think there's definitely an opportunity for it to become a Gen Z centric platform.
Right. And just there's a tweet by Cockroach Janta Party 2 hours ago, which says that all cockroaches are invited to join the Rochak Satsang at 10 p.m. tonight with
Yeah.
Meme Meghnad. And there's YouTube link is also given, and it's getting intense. A party born out of satire, and there is a proper poster to this,
Yeah.
inviting the people. Big. It's
Exactly.
growing big, which means.
It is going to pick up.
No, but do
And
you see this as a new phenomena, Saurav? You've been associated with various movements. Do you see this as a new kind of a youth movement in the country?
it could be. It could be. Only time will tell, Nilu, because the Gen Z really does care about the system. And if you see Instagram, especially, a lot of people, younger generations, are quite vocal about issues. So there's definitely anger. Now, how that anger will be channelized, in which platform? I think this platform really gives them a voice then. So once its popularity increases, and there are various issues that they share with the party, because I'm sure the party will also be asking them, doing a survey and asking them for the kind of issues that they want the party to raise. I think it can really become something big, and we have seen Gen Z movements in other countries. I hope the Gen Z of this country can channelize their energies in a more,
But
peaceful
Saurav,
manner. And
there's
yeah.
always a fear, when these kind of movements come in, there is always a counter movement. Now we always see the Modi Bhaks, they move, they speak in a particular fashion, and you can make out from their tweets, you can make out from their posts, and you can make out also from the way they attack the people. Now, can there be a counter to this Cockroach Janta Party? Because it's just a satirical and online satirical movement right now. There could be a counter to this. What happens then?
I'm sure. I mean, the government will try its best to, to do something against the people running in these accounts, and people joining these parties, because it's not something new. But fortunately or unfortunately for them, the Gen Z are quite casual when it comes to, confronting issues like this. There's a saying that सबसे वो generation है ये. There's a particular word that they use for Gen Z कि कैजुअली इन्होंने नेपाल की सरकार बदल दी, कैजुअली इन्होंने बांग्लादेश की सरकार बदल दी. So definitely, I mean, there will be a counter movement, and they will try to, suppress any form of dissent. If
Right.
last 2 years has shown us anything, it's that
No, but
the government
Saurav,
tries its best.
it's just not about the Chief Justice of India. It's about a resistance against the institutions. It's about the resistance against the government. Uh, do you think that Modi government really has reasons to worry? I'm sure Amit Shah will be watching this movement very, very keenly and very, very effectively. In fact, I was watching at the website of Cockroach Janta Party. They say that we know we are in danger, and we will be called the anti-social movements. We might be blocked. There could be some action taken against us. Do you think that something drastic would come their way?
I'm sure. I'm sure something drastic will come their way when they start making an impact, when they start shaping public opinion. And that is the way of things when it comes to India, because our politics is not really a very supportive atmosphere for new entrants, right? So I think the organizers of the party, the founder of the party, and everybody associated with it will be ready, and will be cognizant of the fact that they will be watched, they are being watched, and they might be, subjugated in the future.
Since you follow the court proceedings and the court cases very, very keenly, now I would also want to take your reaction on today what happened in the Supreme Court. They would strongly reaffirm that bail is the rule and jail the exception, even in cases under the stringent UAPA, while expressing serious reservations about its recent verdict denying bail to former JNU leaders Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam in the Delhi riots case. Now, this was a bench of Justice B.V. Nagaratna and Ujjal Bhuya, which said an earlier judgment rejecting bail to Khalid and Imam and appeared to dilute the binding precedent laid down by a larger bench in the landmark Union of India versus K.A. Najib case. Now, what the bench said was that they cannot dilute, circumvent, or disregard the binding precedent. This is what Justice Bhuya said, pointing out that two judges who denied the bail to Khalid ignored a binding three-judge bench judgment of the Supreme Court, which said that bail is a rule and jail an exception. Now, what does it go to show? I mean, on one hand, you have a Chief Justice of India who calls people cockroaches, parasites, and here you have two judges who are talking sense and giving out what should be and the way the justice should be delivered.
Um, Justice B.V. Nagaratna and Justice Ujjal Bhuya are one of the best judges that we have in the Supreme Court today, Neelu. They have been brilliant when it comes to defending people's civil liberties, especially free speech, And Justice Bhuya has in the past also authored some very good judgments and dissents as well. And for them to do this today, to say that, a coordinate bench meaning, this was a bench of two judges, a bench of equal strength, led by Justice Arvind Kumar, had denied bail to Umar Khalid and Sharjeel Imam while granting bail to the rest. For Justice Bhuya to, I think it was Justice Bhuya's judgment today, but for Justice B.V. Nagaratna and Ujjwal Bhuya to say this, that they disapprove the manner in which bail was denied to Khalid and Imam by another two-judge bench led by Justice Arvind Kumar, I think it's really a great dissent internally when it comes to uh, civil liberties, because you don't see this often happening, right? The last time it happened was Justice Abhay Oak disapproving a judgment by Justice Bela Trivedi. And again, that was on an issue of civil liberties. But that said, our Supreme Court is a polyvocal court. There is not one Supreme Court of India. There are 17 Supreme Courts of India, there, or 18. I don't know what's the count now, because there are benches that sit in every courtroom, and every judge has a different view when it comes to civil liberties. So it actually shows the failure of our institution to take a holistic view when it comes to matters of liberty. Because you see, Justice Arvind Kumar, despite there being a three-judge bench judgment, and interestingly, the judgment that this bench, by Justice B.V. Nagaratna's bench, relies on, the Najib judgment, is from 2021 and authored by the current Chief Justice of India, Justice Suryakant. And it was a landmark judgment because that was for the first time that the Supreme Court decided uh, that constitutional courts will be can grant bail even in a case of UAPA when there is prolonged incarceration and there is no possibility of a trial starting anytime soon. Now, for that, so there's a stark difference between the present Chief Justice of India, present Suryakant, and the Suryakant then. So, for them to say this and clearly, in no, not mixing any words, Justice Bunya has said that the coordinate bench, Justice Arvind Kumar's bench, not following that precedent to the T is actually cannot be done. And he has said that. So now, how does that impact Umar Khalid's case? How does that impact Shajil Imam's case? Only time can tell, because we have seen judges brazen through, despite there being settled precedent, settled principle of laws, despite there being clarity when it comes to law. Still, they have brazened out and done something completely opposite, antithetical to our principles.
Right. So my last question before I wind up the interview, that do you see this cockroach movement coming to an end soon, or you see the possibility of it fizzling out, or this is going to continue now for a long, long time? It's not just against the judiciary, but against the ruling dispensation as well.
I think I would just say that there's a great potential for it to become something huge. Um, Congress party is huge, but is it being mismanaged? It really depends upon who's leading it, right? And that is true of any other party. Maybe the BJP is being led very effectively because because of the kind of things and the manner, the speed with which they function. So there's definitely, if you ask me, is there possibility of a larger movement? There definitely is. The Gen Z are watching, the Gen Z are commenting, the Gen Z is trolling, and the Gen Z is really, really sad when it comes to our current state of affairs. Now, for them, so there's definitely the energy. The energy just needs to be channelized in the right way, and I think Cockroach Janata Party can give that direction to that energy.
Right. All right, Saurav, thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Neelu.
Thank you. Bye.